What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Cannonballs podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Dane Cannon. Co-hosting with me today is
your boy Jake Bulls on the mic 1-2.
And guys, week 9 already in the books. Moving forward to week 10, we are going to be reacting and give our thoughts and opinions game by game of week 9. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. Anything you can to do to help the podcast grow, we'd greatly appreciate. Jake, you have anything to add before we get going?
Pretty interesting week of football. Not a whole lot of upsets, but I think more clarity. I think we're seeing more clarity. The real contenders are starting to separate themselves, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's usually around this time in the season when you start to see teams develop their identity. You kind of start seeing the imposter syndrome dissipate. You know, the real teams, like you said, start emerging. They start playing better. Some teams got off to a rocky start this year, kind of like the Cincinnati Bengals, which we'll be going over. That was originally my Super Bowl prediction, and it's finally starting to look like they're turning into that team again, which is great to see. A couple other teams emerging, a couple teams that are surprising, which we'll get into in this episode. One team in particular, there was a quarterback. I think you guys can already just think of where I'm going, but he balled out and it was insane. Yeah, we'll get into that game in just a moment. So Jake, you ready to start?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll kick it off with Thursday night. Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Tennessee Titans 20-16, and
we did predict
actually a
this
pretty
one,
good
right?
game. Oh yeah, we both picked the Steelers. We were kind of shaky on it. We didn't know if Kenny Pickett would end up starting. He did, and he played an okay game. Nothing like to rave about, but he threw for 160 yards and a touchdown. For the Steelers side of the ball, Najee Harris had one of his best games of of the year.
69-1.
Yeah, and also welcome back Deontay Johnson.
Yes.
Broke his touchdown drought, and had a really good game. 7 for 9. Well, not really good, but good game. He had a good game. 7 for 90 and a touchdown. Yeah, and the defense. The Steelers defense is legit.
TJ Watt definitely had himself a game, as did a couple of the DBs. I mean, they sealed the deal, the interception. Jaylen Warren also looked pretty good. The most surprising thing, though, is since Deontay Johnson has been back, I know George Pickens did have the touchdown last week, but this week he had 2 targets? And did you see that he deleted almost all the Steelers stuff off of his Instagram?
I did not.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of turmoil in the locker room, it seems like. He changed his name as well on Instagram. There's some interesting things going on, so I don't know if he's trying to get an out already, but he was definitely not happy because I think he only had 2 targets this game.
See, this is why people hate wide receivers.
He had 5 targets, 2 receptions.
This is why people hate wide receivers. They're
Drama
fucking
queens.
divas. They're divas. They're drama queens. Give me a fucking break, dude. Just go out and play. No one gives a fuck if you're scoring touchdowns. If you're winning, that's all that should matter. But sorry for my rant. You know what? I think I have more to talk about on the Tennessee side of the ball. Will Levis, dude.
He looks good.
That's 2 games in a row. He looked good when they beat, who was that? The Falcons? And they beat the Falcons last week?
I can't even remember who they played last week. My mind's all over the place. I think you might be right. I think it might be the Falcons. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, they beat the Falcons.
Yeah.
So he good against he looked good against the win against the Falcons, and he looked good against the Steelers in the loss. Really the worst play was that interception to seal the game, and he was driving and he looks accurate. And
he's
he
tough
has
to bring down too. Yeah, he has an arm. He's tough to bring down, can utilize his legs a little bit, and he has decent touch for a big arm quarterback. There were some passes that were dropped right in the bucket. I think him and DeAndre Hopkins are definitely going to develop that rapport it's kind of apparent. The first game he caught 3 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins looked great. D-Hop had another decent game, not anything spectacular by any means. There were no touchdown throws, this game. But yeah, 4 for 60, had a rush for 5 yards. But yeah, Derrick Henry, he looked pretty good, 75-1. Tajay Spears non-existent. Treylon Burks ends up getting hurt this game, so monitor that. But I don't know how severe the injury is. But yeah, it was a solid Thursday night game. Usually Thursday night games are not very entertaining, as will Week 10's Thursday night game is going to be horrific. But it could be fun because they're both bad teams. But yeah, it was an interesting matchup. Good win for Pittsburgh.
All right, let's go into the next game. We had the 6:30 game. It was in Germany. Kansas City Chiefs beat the Dolphins 21-14. I picked the Chiefs. Dane picked the Dolphins, and it's official. I think the Dolphins may be a little bit of frauds. The Chiefs went up. What'd they get up? 21-0?
I think it was 21-0 at half. I mean, the Dolphins, they made it interesting. I mean, it was a tale of two halves. I mean, the Chiefs didn't score a single point in the second half, which was kind of interesting. This was a very defensive battle. Jake and I did bet the under on this game, so kudos to us for actually hitting on this one. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes looked good in the first half. Tua did not, and then it flipped. Neither of these teams did anything spectacular, in my opinion. I think both defenses played really well. The Chiefs in particular, I mean, the Chiefs defense, it's easily the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has ever had this year, or in his career, excuse me. But yeah, Raheem Mostert on the Dolphin side, he had a pretty decent game. He had a touchdown, 85 yards rushing, did have the fumble. Tua didn't do too much, 193-1. Tyreek Hill did Tyreek Hill things, but not to the certain degree that we're used to. 8 for 62. It was more of a defensive game, and these are two decent offenses.
I think you're being a little light on the Dolphins. I don't think it was. I mean, the scoreboard makes it seem like it was closer than it was. I don't think the Dolphins looked good at all in this game. And this is the third time playing a good team above 500 that they did not look good against. So I don't know. I really don't know what to think of the Dolphins. They look lights out, look like they have the best offense in the NFL against subpar teams. And then they play against some actual Super Bowl contenders and they don't show up. So
I think we got to meet somewhere in the middle, because I am probably being too light, but you're also being a little too harsh, because they did change the game plan up in the second half. I mean, they did score 14 unanswered points in the third quarter, so they did bring it back. Tua started some drives, so it was closer than you think. I mean, it was 14-21 in the third, entering the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter, no one scored. It was just defensive battles, and I don't think that Tua had a good game. I don't think the Dolphins had a good game overall, but they definitely had a better second half than they did first half. Like, they definitely were competitive in the second half. First half was a complete blowout. It was 21-0.
Well, being down 21-0 it's not hard to have a worse second half. But no, I mean, they did get some points, but I mean, Tua had a chance to tie the game, and it just, that Chiefs defense is legit, man. Like, we should not sleep on the Chiefs defense if you have been. But good for the Chiefs, I guess. They have one of the best records now again. And the Dolphins dropped to 6-3. So let's move on to the 10 o'clock slate, Dane.
Let's do it.
The first game, really not going to have much to talk about here. Absolute blowout, destroyed our bet. The Baltimore Ravens absolutely cream pied the Seattle Seahawks, and
this wasn't even a competition, and it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
It was pathetic. This is one of the worst. This is one of the worst games I've seen from the Seahawks. I've seen from Geno Smith. I've seen from Kenneth Walker. The only person on this team who had somewhat a decent game was Jackson Smith-Njigba. It was just bad all around. And honestly, I'm going to credit – I think the Seahawks are still a decent team. I don't know if they're at that elite level. I think they're a good team. It's probably a playoff team. I think the Ravens are at that elite level. I was kind of thinking about it last week, and then now – or actually when they did it to the Lions. But now doing it twice to, like, playoff teams, Ravens are looking dangerous, man. That defense is legit. Lamar is healthy.
Really quick. Speaking of the defense, really quick, then you can go to Lamar. They held Kenneth Walker to 16 yards rushing, Zach Charbonnet to 8, and Geno Smith to 4.
Yeah.
That's insane. They didn't even get to 30 yards rushing.
Yeah, it was a cream pie is a literal understatement. Like, this is a game bang quadruple anal cream pie.
Hide your daughters. The gang bus is there.
Yeah, this was like, I was not expecting. I mean, that's why we took the Seahawks. I mean, we picked the Ravens to win. We both did.
Yeah, we thought that it would be a lot closer. We thought that this would be like a 6-point game. That's where we picked it at. And it was not even close. Not even close.
Lamar didn't do, he didn't get any touchdowns, but he had an efficient day in the air, on the ground. And Keaton Mitchell, whoever that is, had himself a game, 9 for 138 and a touchdown.
Really quick, just think about that. 9 rushes for 138 yards. Justice Hill had 13 for 40. And Gus Edwards had 5 for 52 and 2 touchdowns. If you're in fantasy and you start at Justice Hill, I do feel for you. That's brutal.
Yeah. And I know the Seahawks are dealing with some offensive line injuries, so it probably shows. The Ravens got 4 sacks. Did they get any interceptions?
Geno Smith did throw one interception.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna ask you a question towards the end of this podcast once we cover all of the teams. But the Ravens are looking like a scary team, man.
Yes, they are.
My only issue with them is I still worry about the wide receivers. If I had to pick a weakness for the Ravens, it's the wide receivers. But great win for the Ravens. I am not mad about it whatsoever, besides me losing my bet. All right, next game. Another cream pieing, another NFC West team, and another AFC North team. Cleveland Browns, 27-0. They goose-egged the Cardinals.
What's crazy about this game is Deshaun Watson looked terrible, in my opinion.
Yes.
I don't think he looked good at all. The touchdown pass that he threw to Amari Cooper was a fluke play, bounced off a helmet, and literally landed in his receiver's arms. He was underthrowing like flat routes. Like, he was throwing at ankles all game. And when he threw down the field for 20, 30 yards, he overthrew them. It seemed like it had no velocity. I don't know if the shoulder actually is bothering him that much, but this game was literally won because Clayton Tune is a very bad quarterback. He's a rookie who's going up against Cleveland's defense, and Cleveland's defense won this game for them. So and the rushing game for the Cleveland Browns. But this was not a fun game to watch because both quarterbacks looked like shit. Clayton Tune, 58 yards passing, 2 interceptions.
Yeah,
Sean Watson had 219 and 2, but he didn't look pretty. I don't know what to say. He should not have had 2 touchdowns. He should not have had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just how it goes. I thought the pass to Njoku was okay. Like, he was wide open, so I'll give him that one. But the other one was a fluke play, and you're right. He just doesn't look like the Deshaun Watson the Browns thought they were getting. He looks bad. His rushing ability is still great. Like, that's his. Honestly, they should just go full triple option Navy style, because that's his best weapon. But this defense, unlike the Jets, which we'll talk about later, this defense is actually going to win them a lot of games. They're legit. So I don't want to talk about this game too much more, but we both picked the Browns.
Yeah, but Cardinal fans, you do have something to root for. It is expected that Kyler Murray will be starting this coming week, so keep an eye out for that.
That is true.
Keep an eye out for that.
Playing a very beatable Falcons team, so we'll get to that later in the week. All right, next game. This was the game of the week, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. If I'm thinking the same game you are.
Yeah, this game was absolutely fantastic. We differed on it. Dane picked the Texans. I picked the Bucks. I was very close, except CJ Stroud is the best quarterback in this draft. Houston Texans beat the Tampa Bay Bucks 39-37.
Hot take. CJ
It's
Stroud
not that hot.
No. Hot take right now. CJ Stroud is a top 10 QB in the NFL already.
That's I will not get behind that at all.
So
Top 10.
That's why I said it's a hot take.
I mean, you can call it a hot take. It's a bad take. I think he's playing.
It's an opinion, bro. How is it a bad take? It's an opinion.
Because he's a rookie quarterback. He cannot be a top 10 quarterback.
Who says you can't be a top 10 because you're a rookie?
He's not a top 10 quarterback. He's playing like a top 10 quarterback. And have you forgot about the last 3 games where he looked not so great?
I have 100% because of this game.
Exactly.
And let's talk about it this way: 470 yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and a drive with 40 seconds on the clock, and 1 timeout, 2 timeouts.
Yeah. No, I will 100% agree with you. Like he played lights out.
Yeah.
He played lights out this week. Make up for the last couple bad games, but he let it down. He looks like the best offense. He looks like the best quarterback in this draft class. Better than Bryce Young. Looks like he should have been taken number 1. He had the game-winning drive. Tank Dell balled out.
He had 3 receivers with over 100 yards receiving. That's insane.
Insane. Nico Collins got the touchdown. Tank Dell had 2 touchdowns, 114. Dalton Schultz, 131. Noah Brown.
And that's a tight end.
Where the hell did he? Yeah. Where the hell did Noah Brown come from? 153 and 1. Holy crap, dude!
And this is against a Tampa Bay defense that is like no laughing matter. Like Tampa Bay's defense is pretty good, but sometimes you have these games where it's like it flips the script. And both these defenses we thought were going to play a lot better. So we were predicting this to be an actually low scoring game. And this ended up being a shootout, to the last second. And I don't want to take anything away from Baker either. I think Baker had a decent game himself.
Yeah.
I mean, Tampa Bay, they did well. I mean, Baker Mayfield, 265 and 2, got some going on the ground as well. Rashad White had himself a game. Mike Evans, he had himself a game as well. Cade Otton. Like like you said, it was the game of the week. This was the most exciting game played on Sunday. And go ahead.
It might go, like when they do the voting, it might go down as one of the best games of the year. Like,
oh yeah, I definitely think it will, because it wasn't even just like the storyline. It's the way that the game was won. Like 40 seconds left, rookie quarterback, 1 timeout, whatever, a rookie head coach. And you take it down the field, and it's a high-scoring game, 36-39. Just
not only that, the Texans kicker got hurt.
Yes. And you bring in a running back?
Yeah, the Texans had to go for 2 on multiple touchdowns because there were so many touchdowns in this game. And then Dare Gumbawale actually made an extra point, which was awesome.
It was a field goal.
Or, was it a field goal?
It was to tie it up.
That's right.
The emergency kicker field goal.
Dude, there was just so much going on in this game. It was a great game. Honestly, like should the Bucks have tried to hold better or play better defense? Sure. But, the Bucks played a good game. The Texans played a great game. It's just someone had to win. It would have been a shame if this game would have ended in a tie. So honestly, like, I'll say this. CJ Stroud.
What was that stat you told me about CJ Stroud? He already has more passing touchdowns than what, Kenny Pickett? Is that who it was?
Yeah. He has more touchdowns in his rookie season. Well, I mean, it's not that. I mean, it is because he played a whole year before him. But he didn't start until halfway through, right? Kenny Pickett.
I think Mitch Trubisky got injured like week 4.
Okay,
something like that. I mean, regardless, I think it was pretty earlier on in the season.
Yeah, like. The Texans, they have a lot of receivers that can go down and get it. And, CJ Stroud is just balling out, man. He is clear-cut offensive rookie of the year.
He's changing the mold and the ideology that we have of Ohio State quarterbacks also. Like, typically there's this stereotype that Ohio State quarterbacks do not pan out in the NFL. And he is rewriting this narrative. It is impressive to see. CJ Stroud, who scored one of the lowest on like that pre-NFL combine test or whatever, doesn't mean shit. This kid can see the field just fine. He's doing excellent. Good for CJ Stroud. Good win for the Texans.
Yeah. All right, next game. We both picked it. Thankfully, they won. The New Orleans Saints beat the Chicago Bears 24-17, and
This
it was
was
a lot
not looking
closer.
good. Yeah, this
It was
was
a lot
not looking
closer
good.
than it. It's a lot closer than it should have been. Well, I'm not even going to say that. It was just a lot closer than we probably thought it should have been. The Bears are, tied with the Saints 17-17 at one point, and it was back and forth. The Bears were up, I think, by 14 at one point.
Yeah, I think it was because New Orleans
No.
scored in the first, so it was.
Yeah.
I think it was 7-0. Then it was 7-7. Then it was 14-7 Bears, and then it was 14-14 at half, 17-17 in the at the end of the third, and then New Orleans got the last touchdown in the fourth.
Yeah, so I mean, really, turnovers doomed the Bears here. A couple bad interceptions, some fumbles,
3 interceptions to be exact.
Yeah, the Saints defense decided to play the second half, but the Saints, they held in there. Taysom Hill, man, I'm actually kind of glad they're using him more. I
Me
think
too. He's a cheat code.
Yeah, and, I mean, not even for fantasy. I think he's one of their best
athletes.
Yeah, like players on offense. If you can throw, if you can run, if you can catch, if you can block, like you're just an athlete. Sorry, you're an athlete. And, I would rather put him out there than a freaking second string tight end who may be a little bit bigger. Like at least you have the option to, give him the ball or something. Like I'm glad they're using him more because, I think they need it, honestly. Like, I think they want to win games, and I think Taysom Hill definitely helps them out.
Yeah, 100%. Kind of crazy. I do want to talk about the rushing. Alvin Kamara, what happened? He was non-existent this game. 9 for 26. Jamal Williams, 3 for 6. Kendre Miller, I think, got injured. He had 1 carry for 0 yards. Alvin Kamara at least had 44 yards in the receiving game, but the Bears defense actually played pretty tough this game. They did really solid against the Chargers rushing attack, which is a non-existent rushing attack, to be honest. But the New Orleans Saints have a pretty good running game with Alvin Kamara, and they held them pretty tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the newly acquired and newly paid Montez Sweat only had 2 tackles, 0 sacks for the entire Bears team. So good for the offensive line of the Saints. But I mean, the Saints are 5-4 now. They're kind of ahead in that division now. So, but yeah, good win for the Saints. Let's move on. This one, honestly, if the Texans Bucks game wasn't the best game, this is a close second. Minnesota Vikings beat the Atlanta Falcons 31-28.
I will say the storyline of this game trumps any storyline that could have come from the Texans game. I mean, what CJ Stroud did was excellent, but for a quarterback being transferred or traded to this team, so Josh Dobbs traded from the Arizona Cardinals to Minnesota the week of this game, doesn't know the playbook, doesn't know the players, doesn't think he's going to start. Starting quarterback gets injured. He goes in and he fucking balls out. I mean, the stats aren't like anything crazy, but he put the team on his back. He literally said, you know what, let's go win this game. Rushed for a touchdown, had a nice 2-point conversion, had a nice drive at the end to win them the game. They were down. Like, dude, this was the craziest storyline you could have possibly written for a quarterback he's been on 3 teams this year, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. Wild. I'm a Josh Dobbs fan.
Me too.
when I saw him in Tennessee, I was like, this guy is not very good. But I started liking him just because he was balling out with the Arizona Cardinals. And now what he did with the Vikings, he's giving this team playoff hopes, because looking at their schedule, I think the Vikings are very, very capable of making the playoffs.
Especially with a weak division other than the Lions.
Yeah. And, you never know. I mean, I don't know have they played each other already, the Vikings and Lions?
I don't think so, actually. So
you never know. Like, the Vikings could sneak up and beat the Lions a couple times. It's NFL football, man. Anything can happen. Yeah, and even though they lost, the Falcons played a pretty decent game. on defense and on offense. A couple bad interceptions from Taylor Heineke. My biggest gripe with the Atlanta Falcons, and it's not even just for fantasy purposes. Why are you not putting your best players out on the field? It's the complete opposite of the New Orleans Saints with Taysom Hill. Bijan Robinson is one of your best players. Why is he not on the field?
Yeah.
It's so aggravating. Like, I mean, I get it. Tyler Algier is not a chump. Like, he's a decent running back. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He got a couple touchdowns. But Bijan is, if you let him cook, he will guide you to the promised land, Arthur Smith. I promise you. And it kind of makes me glad that the Falcons lost. Just because,
Agreed.
like, come on, dude. Give the ball to Bijan. He's a rookie. Like, you want to see what you got with him. Maybe you want him to last for years. I don't know. But, that's not how you keep your job. You keep your job by winning games. So
yeah, he's definitely. I listened to the Fantasy Footballers podcast, and it does kind of seem like he is going just out of spite to fantasy players, like intentionally not playing Bijan Robinson. That's what it seems like, because he doesn't talk about when Bijan's sick, doesn't give any notification to the NFL. They investigated that. Then he's not playing him, and Bijan's healthy. Bijan did have a fumble this game, but like when he did get touches, he looked like Bijan, bro, and he looked good. And I think the funniest thing about this game is when Jaren Hall got injured, I remember talking to you on Discord, and both you and I were like, oh my God, Minnesota's going to win this game. Josh Dobbs is coming in. And it freaking happened. It's just one of those instances where you can just feel the shift in like momentum. And it's so weird because you're talking about a player who doesn't know the playbook. I mean, he's getting the play call in the headphone apparently, and then he's also getting told what the routes are because he doesn't know the playbook yet because he just got there, and then they still win the game. That's insane.
It's insane, and congratulations, Dobbs. And just so you guys know, this game messed up Dan and I's bet because we took the Falcons to win, and it also messed me up in the pool that I'm in. If they would have won, I would have won my pool. So
same here.
That's also why I'm pretty salty towards Arthur Smith. Fuck you, Arthur Smith.
I'm in the same boat. That's the only game that I lost this week, which is unfortunate.
All right, next game. Not much to talk about here. Actually, I really would just rather skim by it. But
let me guess, Rams Packers.
Yes, we picked the Packers to win. But it was not pretty at all.
This was a snore fest, and I'm sorry, Dad. Like, don't take anything away from this game because Brett Rippin, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Like, he is an incompetent quarterback. You're down Matthew Stafford. They played in the rain. I mean, the Rams defense held tough because Jordan Love he went 20 for 26 for 228 and 1, but like, I don't know, man. It does not look pretty. It is short dump off passes.
It was 10,
man.
It was 10-7 going into the fourth. And a couple bad Brett Rippin in turnovers or whatever. I don't even remember most of this game, but they capitalized on the short fields. And, Luke Musgrave got his first touchdown, so congrats to him. Mm-hmm. But
Aaron Jones looked pretty good. I'll give him that. At least Aaron Jones, I think, looked pretty decent. But the ball was kind of sliding around. There was an interception by Brett Rippin. There were a couple fumbles out on the field. I think inclement weather definitely played a factor, but you're not going to win games with Brett Rippin, unfortunately. So hopefully Matthew Stafford can come back relatively quickly.
Yeah, and for football purposes and fantasy purposes, let's get Christian Watson involved, man. He had one target.
He did get injured this game as well. He's in concussion protocol, landed on his back, and it was a pretty decent fall also. Like, unfortunately, Christian Watson has some talent, has a lot of speed, but the guy can't stay healthy, and it's unfortunate because even when he was healthy, 3 weeks that he was, Jordan Love just isn't getting him the ball accurately or on time.
Yeah. And last thing, everybody had a bad game for the Rams. The quarterback, both the running backs. Royce Freeman, Darrell Henderson, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nakua. It was just all around bad. So if you're a Rams fan, pray that Matthew Stafford comes back after the bye. Next game. This one kind of actually no. Hold on, I'm skipping one. My fault. This game was pretty good. It was back and forth. Washington Commanders, we picked them to win. They did. They beat the New England Patriots 20-17. You take this one away. I really don't have much to say about this one.
So I'll talk about the Patriots first. I think that obviously this was Ramondre Stevenson's best game. 9 carries, 87 yards. Had the big 65-yard breakaway touchdown. Utilized him a little bit in the passing game. Also 4 for 42. Mac Jones didn't look great. He did have a throwing touchdown, but he had the interception. Defense played pretty well. I mean, the Patriots defense is always going to play teams pretty tough. That's just the Belichick way. But I'm just going to move to the Commanders because that's pretty much all that I have to say. There wasn't anything that was outstanding other than Ramondre Stevenson's 165-yard touchdown.
So he had 165-yard touchdown, right? Mm-hmm. So and he only got 87 yards on the day.
Yeah.
That's
but he had 44 yards in the receiving game. So at least they're utilizing him in the passing game. They need to because he's their best receiving back. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott really didn't do anything. 6 for 17. So he only had 3. So Ramondre had 3 more carries and he had 70 more yards. But that's because of the one breakaway. I mean, Demario Douglas is basically your main receiver. You're not going to get much going on with that. But going to the Commanders, Brian Robinson had a pretty decent game, 18 for 63. Sam Howell looked pretty decent. Jahan Dotson finally getting utilized back-to-back weeks. Terry McLaurin had himself a good game. It was a good win for the Commanders. It was a tough battle. You know, both teams were kind of struggling recently. I mean, the Patriots are 2-7, so they're still definitely struggling. But yeah, Jesus. Washington, surprising to me. I think the most surprising thing for Washington is you trade your 2 best defensive line players, and then the defense seems like they're doing okay.
I don't know about best. I mean, Montez Sweat is nice. I would say Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen or whatever his name is. Is that Jonathan Allen? I think they're probably their best. But, you know, it is pretty interesting. They held up without – I mean, they didn't get any sacks, but they held up. So,
I mean, they definitely did well in the running game other than the one breakaway.
Yeah. All right, next game. This one, to me, was a snooze fest. Indianapolis Colts beat the Carolina Panthers 27-13. We both picked the Colts.
Yeah, this one was rough for Bryce Young. 2 pick sixes.
Yeah.
Not going to – it's just night and day different this week compared to CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud looked excellent. Number 1 and number 2 overall picks. One's throwing pick sixes, the other one's throwing 5 touchdowns. So it's kind of, I feel bad for Panthers fans. It's a tough break. Bryce Young threw 3 interceptions on the day. Colts defense, what won them this game. I mean, the defense got after Bryce Young all day. They sacked him, intercepted him. And, you know, it was good to see Jonathan Taylor, getting utilized a little bit again, 47 yards, but also utilized in the receiving game, 22-1. Colts offense didn't have to do that much. Gardner Minshew only threw for 127 yards. It was a story of the defense. Defense came to play today.
Yeah. Back to Bryce Young. I think he'll be fine. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think as far as the 2 top quarterbacks, I think, and this is really surprising saying this now that I think about it, I think CJ Stroud actually went to a better situation.
I agree. I agree because the receiving options are a lot better.
Yeah, the receiving options are better. The O-line is better.
Defense is better.
The defense is, I mean, the Panthers have players on defense. I think Brian Burns got hurt this week. But yeah, I mean, the Panthers, it's going to be a while for the Panthers, I think. So might be a rough go at it for Bryce Young. I don't know. Maybe they can just do some massive overhaul. But a good win for the Colts. They're 4-5 now. Carolina Panthers are 1-7. All right, next game. We predict this one. I'm pretty proud of ourselves. Unfortunately, we didn't hit on any of our other bets. Well, actually, we hit on 5 out of 7. But you know what? I'm happy we actually picked this one for the bet and for the podcast. The Las Vegas Raiders cream pied the New York Giants 30-6.
Yeah. Daniel Jones out for the year.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even talk about that for the Vikings. Cam Akers, torn Achilles. He's out.
Cam Akers, and that wasn't even his previously torn Achilles. He is now torn 2 separate Achilles, one on each foot. So, unfortunate for Cam Akers. I think his career might be over.
Yeah. And I don't know what Daniel Jones's contract looks like, but the Giants have won 2 games. Their season's over.
Yeah, they're in a mix for like a Drake May type quarterback, or like
I'm going fuck that dude. I'm going Caleb Williams, man. I know they just signed down Jones, but I 100% guarantee you it's not all guaranteed. Bite the bullet or keep him. And then
what I'm saying is I don't think that they're well, I mean, Arizona's probably not going to go winless anymore with Kyler coming back, but I don't know if I see the Panthers winning another game. They might. So they could be in the mix for the first overall pick. And if they are, then they should go Caleb Williams, in my opinion. They should go after a quarterback who has more talent. So,
well, also here's the thing, like the Cardinals have Kyler, the Panthers have Bryce, the Giants have Daniel Jones. If I'm the Giants, I'm tanking or I'm trading whoever ends up getting that first, because I mean, I have my opinions we all have opinions about Daniel Jones. He's mediocre. His best attribute is in the run. And now he's hurt. I know it sucks. I'm not trying to dunk on him, but it's just the way it is. But the Raiders, man, holy
defense
crap.
Came to play. Josh Jacobs had himself a game, 98-2 on the ground.
Everyone came to play for the Raiders, man. It was like a completely different team. Yeah. And this is what I said. This is what I said would happen when the Raiders won, when they fired John Gruden a couple years ago. Like, they looked like a completely different team. And it's the Raiders' fault for firing or hiring these, shitty quarterback or shitty coaches. They're cancers in the locker room, and it's like a anvil taken off your chest when these coaches leave. And they look good. I mean, it was the Giants, but the Giants defense had been playing pretty good for the last several weeks, and the Raiders just mopped the floor with them.
Aiden O'Connell, really quick before we move on, he threw for 209 yards, no touchdowns. But I mean, when you have Tommy DeVito in there, who throws 2 interceptions, he had the 1 touchdown, but Tommy DeVito is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't even think he's a competent backup, honestly, because Tyrod Taylor's also on IR. So he's your 3rd string quarterback. There's a reason I think the Raiders won, and it was like field positioning. The defense definitely 100%. Won them the game. Yeah.
But they were up, like, weren't they up 21-0 when Daniel Jones was up or was in the game also? So, I mean, the Giants are not a good team. The Giants are not a good team. Even with Daniel Jones, even with Saquon Barkley, they're not a good team. Their record shows it. We've been watching them all year. They're not a good team. And I feel bad for Saquon. Or I actually feel happy because he didn't sign a long-term contract. If I'm Saquon, dude, I'm out of there. Like, honestly.
Go to the Chargers.
Yeah. All right. Good win for the Raiders. This next one was actually a pretty good game. Philadelphia Eagles, we both picked them. They beat the Cowboys 28-23, and it was a back and forth game, honestly.
This was actually a really good game. Dallas seemed like they had the upper hand in the first half. I mean, they were leading 17-14. It was a tough battle, but then Philadelphia came out firing in the third quarter. They scored 14 unanswered. Dak had himself a pretty good game, though, I will say. And CeeDee Lamb, bro, 191, but he didn't even have a touchdown. 191 yards, and you don't get a touchdown. That's insane to me. But Jake Ferguson looked good. Jalen Tolbert looked good. Cavante Turpin, he did stuff in special teams, and he had a touchdown. Dak Prescott threw for 374 and 3. And they still lost. I mean, they had an opportunity to win it at the very end. They came up like 2 yards short. And what's crazy is NFL really, this game literally illustrates that it's a game of inches, because there was a play when it should have been a touchdown, or it was ruled a touchdown initially. After review, they were literally like 2 inches short and then turned the ball over. Dak Prescott thought he had a touchdown or a 2-point conversion. I can't remember what it was, but he stepped out of bounds. And so it was a game of like another couple inches. And I think if they would have converted on those, they probably would have won. But yeah, man, tough break for Dallas fans. I mean, Eagles, Jalen Hurts didn't look amazing, but he played a good game, 207-2. They couldn't really get anything going on the ground. Dallas's defense held up tough, but AJ Brown, even though he didn't have the 120 yards that we're used to the last 5 weeks, he still had a good touchdown. Devontae Smith had a great touchdown. It was an overall good game. I don't think that there's anything to be ashamed of if you're a Dallas fan. It's just a tough break this game, because you were so close to winning this game, but that's just how the NFL is sometimes. And they came literally inches short of winning a really good game against a division opponent.
Yeah, I think it's a different story when they come to Dallas. I think they're gonna trade, because there's nothing in that game that showed me that the Cowboys won't beat the Eagles. And honestly, like, it's weird because the Eagles have the best record in the NFL, but they have not looked great, but they keep winning. It's crazy. And you know what? Maybe that's just how good teams look. Like, you don't have to look like the Miami Dolphins every week when you're winning. If you're winning, who cares? Like, I mean, they're doing enough to win. Like, they have a good defense. They have good players on offense. Yeah, Jalen Hurts doesn't look like the MVP this year, but he's not turning over the ball.
Unless he's playing the Jets and he throws 3 interceptions.
Yeah. So, good win for the Eagles. It's just going to it was a very tough fought battle. All right. Next game, Sunday Night Football. Dane picked the Bengals. I picked the Bills. And yeah, Dan was right. Bengals beat the Bills 24-18. And it was not that close.
Bengals are back.
Yeah, Bengals are 100% back. 100%. T. Higgins had himself the best game of this season.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't even score a touchdown.
Yeah,
fucking
really helped me in fantasy.
And Irv Smith.
Crazy. But T. Higgins did help me out. Dude, Joe Burrow looks nice. He looks like the second best quarterback, like we always thought. Mm-hmm. The run game and the defense is very surprising for the Bengals. Like, it looks great. Like, we know what Joe Burrow is. We know what Jamar and T and all those other wide receivers are. But the defense and the run game are an added surprise. They are what the Bills wish they had, because the Bills had zero run game besides Josh Allen.
What's crazy though is that the Bills actually had more rushing yards, and they had 68 yards rushing. The Bengals only had 54.
Wow. I don't know why. Oh, well, that's okay, but that's why, because Josh Allen. It was Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the run game. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, like, every time the running back for the Bengals, like Joe Mixon, every time he got the ball, I was like, oh, he got it first. He got 5 yards, blah, blah, blah. And then whenever the Bills running backs got it, it was like 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard. Josh Allen did throw an interception 5 games in a row. But besides that, I think he played okay. I think the Bengals defense just locked the Bills up, honestly.
Yeah, the Bengals defense has been really nice the last 3 weeks. I mean, they've had back-to-back like impressive wins against the 49ers and the Bills now. Like, those are two like powerhouse teams in the NFL, and the Bengals, who were struggling at the beginning of the year, they kind of, even though the scores haven't been like blowouts by any means, it seemed kind of like a one-sided affair. Like, the Bengals seem like they've been dominating, even if the score doesn't show it.
Yeah. So this brings me up to my question that I wanted to ask you. AFC North, they have some of the best defenses in the league right now. Rank them. Give me your rankings. I want to hear your rankings.
Fuck, man, that's tough. I'm probably going to go Baltimore 1.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And then second place is so hard because Cleveland some weeks looks like the best defense. I don't think the Bengals have looked like the best defense, but they've been consistent recently and they've been solid against good teams. Oh my God. And then, oh, fuck, man. That I can't. I literally can't. I think I can go Baltimore 1, and then it's like a 3-way tie for second, in my opinion, because some weeks the other teams look like they can compete.
I'll give you mine. I got. Well, really, it's harder for number one. I either got the Browns or the Ravens. But I think I'm gonna go Browns. I think they just have a little bit more star power. You know, the Ravens have some stars on defense, but I don't know, for some reason I like the Browns a little bit more.
I think I might actually go Pitt last, just because I feel like it's mostly just TJ Watt.
Yeah. Oh, real quick. When he got that sack, when he got that his helmet ripped off, and he was just like yelling, dude. Yeah. If you take a picture of that, that could like define that was like one of the coolest shots I've seen in a while. That was like some Ray Lewis shit, like back in the day. Like that shit is iconic. Like we're gonna see that picture 10 years from now and be like, oh, I remember that game. But yeah, for me, I got the Ravens or the Browns. You could really, I think statistically it's probably the Ravens, but for me, I kind of like the Browns a little bit more. And then I think I got the Steelers and then the Bengals. But I'm not saying the Bengals are bad. Like I just think the Steelers, I think they had a couple of rough games, like especially against that 49ers team, and we have a different picture on their defense. But I think they're all nice. Like they're all like, they all got to be like in the top 15.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah. And not only that, I mean, the AFC North this year is that entire division is a powerhouse. That entire division is a powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean, we said it, like this is the toughest division in football. Again, you know, this reminds me of the 2010s, 2000s. You know, the Ravens are 7-2 and everybody else is 5-3. Like they're within a game of each other. Like this is crazy. And I believe
is Pitt 5-3?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that is crazy to me.
Yeah. And you know what? They'll probably end the season 9-8 and miss the playoffs, but it's gonna be good for them. I would not be surprised if 3 AFC North teams make the playoffs.
I wouldn't be either. Jesus, man.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be fun. The team that scares me, sorry to get off track a little bit, but the team that scares me the most with the AFC North is honestly the Browns, though, because it's such a question mark with their quarterback. Like, I don't know if Deshaun Watson can lead this team to the playoffs. But anyways, solid win for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like Dane said, they are 100% back. That's 4 wins in a row.
Because they started off, what, 0-3? Or 0-2?
Something like that. Maybe it was 1-3.
Maybe I can't remember.
So they look great. All right, last game, your boys. It was pretty much a shellacking.
But it was a defensive shellacking. I mean, I don't know what to take away from this game. I don't know if it was like the Chargers defense just was elite this game, or if it was just Zach Wilson for the Jets. I think it was a combination of the two, or somewhere in the middle. I think the defense for the Chargers played really well, but it's also Zach Wilson like holding onto the ball too long. The offensive line didn't do him any favors. I think that the Chargers pass rush was the storyline of this game, because the Chargers secondary isn't great by any means. It was Joey Bosa. I think he had 2 sacks. Khalil Mack had a sack. Morgan Fox had a sack. Tuli Pelotu, he had 2 sacks as well. Dude, I think they had like 7 or 8 sacks this game. Plus they had a strip sack. Joey Bosa had a strip sack as well, which almost ended up in a touchdown. But yeah, this was literally just the Chargers defense going up against a bad offense, in my opinion. The Jets defense still looked really good, even though it was 27-6. I don't think that the score indicates how good the Jets defense played, because the Chargers couldn't do anything on offense. I mean, Justin Herbert literally only threw for 136 yards, no touchdowns. The ground game could not get going unless they were in the 5-yard line. And then Austin Eckler had 2 touchdowns. But the Chargers offense, Keenan Allen had the most miraculous catch when it didn't need to be a miraculous catch. Like Justin Herbert almost had another terrible overthrow on a wide open receiver, and it was Keenan Allen again. I don't know what is going on, but Justin Herbert has not looked elite like he has the last couple years. I don't know if the finger's actually bothering him or if it's the scheme or what it is. Like there's something going on, but there's been a little bit of disconnect with Justin Herbert. The offensive line hasn't looked good, but the Jets defense does have a nasty pass rush. So I want to give them props to that. But yeah, this was just the Chargers defense came to play against a bad offense. That's my biggest takeaway, and I'll take it.
Yeah. I feel bad for the Jets defense. I mean, the score shows 27-6, but the Chargers really only had one good drive all game. Two of their touchdowns came off a punt return, that was beautiful.
I do want to say Darius Davis has been a surprisingly good addition to this team because, I mean, when we utilize him on gadget plays also, he's got speed, and that's one thing that the Chargers lacked was speed. Jalen Guyton did come off of the injury reserve because he was coming off a torn ACL from last year. Didn't get utilized much this game. I think he had like one target. But if we can have him and Darius Davis and actually have a good offensive game plan where we utilize our speed, that would be nice. But yeah, it was great to see a punt return touchdown.
Yeah, so that was one of their touchdowns, and then late in the game, I think it was a fumble recovery, and
it was the Joey Bosa strip sack. Alohi Gilman picked it up, ran it down to like the 2-yard line. But yeah, that was one touchdown, and then earlier in the game, they had one good drive, like you said.
Yeah, so the Jets defense, I feel bad for. I think if the Jets could sustain some drives, they would win a lot more games. I think they're still going to be okay, like probably a 7-win team unless Aaron Rodgers comes back, which if you saw his little interaction with Derwin James, says
couple weeks.
A couple weeks. If he comes back, he's going to be immediately tested for steroids because or some kind of drugs because there's no fucking way. Like, he's got to be on some freaking like stem cell, freaking, I don't even know what the hell you want to call it. But if he comes back, I will just drop my nuts. But the Chargers, this was a good game for them. They needed this one. They're 4-4 now.
Chargers had 8 sacks.
Yeah, they freaking. I mean, you want to see this is the reason why Aaron Rodgers got hurt, in my opinion, 100%. Like the O line was not what we thought it.
And I mean, they are dealing with injuries as well. They've had to reshuffle the offensive linemen around, so I'm not going to take too much away from it. It's not a good offensive line.
Yeah, it's not a good offensive line. It's not a good quarterback. And the Chargers took advantage, which, I'm glad they did because this was on paper 2 winnable games for the Chargers. And, the Chargers tend to make these ones closer than they need to be. And I'm glad they actually, prove that they are a better team because on paper they are a better team. They just need to prove it. And they will have a chance to prove it next week. But that's all of the games, right, Dan?
That is it. Monday night officially wrapped up, guys. That is going to do it for Week 9 reactions. We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys haven't already, please follow us on our Instagram here. Like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. Anything you can to do to help the podcast grow, we'd greatly appreciate.
All right. Thank you for listening. And as always, peace.